When the moon slips into the Earth's shadow, it glows a dark red. This is known as a total lunar eclipse. During total lunar eclipses, a strange phenomenon has been observed. 18th century Europe. Mysterious red lights were seen on the moon when it turned dark red in a total lunar eclipse. An odd light was also seen from Apollo 11, the first mission to land humans on the moon.
Hey Houston, there's an area there that is considerably more illuminated than the surrounding area.
Incredibly, they said that a crater was glowing. In 2013, light that suddenly appeared on the moon's surface was successfully captured on film. Reports of sightings of these mysterious flashes of light have reached 3,000 to date.
That area appeared to be blinking on and off. It only lasted 9 minutes and then it faded. Really, really very exciting. It's also very creepy as well.
Is there a scientific explanation behind this phenomenon? Or is it something paranormal? We investigate the mystery of these strange flashes of light that occur on the moon's surface. By solving this mystery, surprising new truths about the moon have emerged. Canterbury is a city in southeast England, UK. Ever since the Middle Ages, it has flourished as a center of Christian pilgrimage. Canterbury Cathedral is a World Heritage Site. It was here more than 800 years ago that a strange phenomenon involving the moon was witnessed. A document which records this event is held in the cathedral's archives.
This is the printed chronicle of Gervase of Canterbury.
It is a record of significant events that took place during the Middle Ages. Within its pages, there is an account of what was seen on the moon in the year 1178.
Gervase says, Fax ardens, flammam carbones et scintillas. A burning torch, throughout a flame, coals and sparks.
This is a reconstruction based on the Chronicle's account.
After sunset, when the moon had first become visible, a marvelous phenomenon was witnessed by some 5 or more men. Suddenly, the upper horn of the new moon split in 2. From the midpoint of the division, a flaming torch sprang up, spewing out over a considerable distance fire, hot coals and sparks. The body of the moon, which was below, writhed as it were in anxiety, throbbed like a wounded snake. The phenomenon was repeated a dozen times or more before returning to normal.
This event was noticed by presumably monks in Canterbury. Well, Gervase himself says he heard the story of the event from 5 men who very much promised that it was true. So there is no reason to think that it is not credible.
A similar event was also observed by one of the most famous astronomers in history, William Herschel, who discovered Uranus. It was while observing a total lunar eclipse through a telescope that Herschel noticed something unusual about the moon. He published his observations in a scientific paper. His handwritten manuscript still exists.
Here we have a set of miscellaneous observations by William Herschel, including his sight of remarkable phenomena in an eclipse of the moon.
October 22nd, 1790, when the moon was totally eclipsed. The remarkable phenomena occurred when the moon was in complete shadow of the Earth. I perceived many bright red, luminous points. Most of them were small and round, at least 150 of them. However, I was unable to determine the cause.
He'd been rather stung a few years earlier when he described what he thought was volcanic eruptions on the moon. So he was being careful and very scientific about this. We don't know exactly what it was that Herschel saw. We'll probably never know, but it's an interesting small paper.
In the years since, sightings of what are now known as transient lunar phenomena have been reported all over the world. Sightings of an area of the moon's surface shining blue-white, of a hazy light, reports of the edge of the moon glowing. There have been 3,000 reported sightings to date. Some of these, however, are thought to have been just tricks of the eye or inaccurate observations. One astronomer is collaborating with amateur stargazers around the world to try and solve the mystery of this phenomenon. This is Tony Cook from Aberystwyth University in the UK. He is seeking to find an explanation for transient lunar phenomena, or TLPs, by analyzing images of past sightings.
So does that give you any ideas what it might be?
Photos and videos capturing anything unusual about the moon are sent to him from all over the world.
You get more and more atmosphere in the way. So this is taken by an amateur astronomer. The image resolution is not too good. It's through a telephoto lens. And you'll see at some point we'll get a little flare on the side of the moon which looks like a plume.
A white light appears on the right-hand side of the moon. This is followed by a red light. It's sucked into the surface. So is this an example of a TLP? Cook asked the amateur astronomer to photograph the moon again.
He repeated the experiment on another night and the same effect occurs. So we know that it was due to lens flare inside the camera telephoto lens that he was using. So that solves that problem.
There is one report, however, that Cook does believe describes light from the moon's surface. The light was observed in 1973 by an American astronomer on a crater called Ptolemaeus. He claimed that an oval-shaped light appeared from the bottom of the crater, which then multiplied and spread. However, this phenomenon occurred just once, and no one has ever observed it again. Why did the light appear on Ptolemaeus? The crater was researched in great depth. Looking at factors such as the time when it occurred, the sun's light was found to have had a significant effect.
We need to do the observations under the same conditions so that we can see exactly what observers should have seen when they saw TLP back in the past.
The strong tidal force exerted on the moon by Earth means that it is always the same side of the moon that faces Earth. However, as the moon spins at an angle and also has an elliptical orbit, its appearance changes slightly every 27 days when seen from Earth. Meanwhile, the phases of the moon occur in 29-day cycles. There are also other factors like its relative position to the sun, and so you only get the same set of conditions once every few years. Cook, therefore, calculated a date when the conditions would be identical to when the observation was made in 1973. He discovered that such an opportunity would occur in 2003 in Europe. Cook called on amateur astronomers in Europe to make observations of the Ptolemaeus crater. This is an image taken on January 10, 2003. Inside the crater, there is an oval-shaped area of brightness. Images were taken showing this light spreading over time. The phenomenon that was reported back in 1973 was captured once more. In order to determine its cause, Cook used data from lunar probes to examine the topography around the crater. He discovered a varied and undulating landscape of tall mountains and valleys. This is a graph of the elevation around the crater. It shows an area with a significantly lower altitude. He also studied in detail the contours of the bottom of the crater. He found that it was not completely flat, but instead covered in a series of bumps. The differences in height measured several dozen meters. Cook speculated that the crater's topography held the key to explaining the phenomenon.
There's a lot of variations in the topography there. It's quite a small amount, but when the sun's coming in at an angle, a little bit of topography is going to poke through the shadow and cause some of those ovals which we see.
This phenomenon really was an exceptional event. It would occur only on the rare occasion that the sun rose right in the middle of a deep valley between mountains. When the light falls onto the bottom of the crater, the elevated areas would be illuminated first. As the sun rises, other areas of brightness will appear elsewhere. The mysterious light was the result of pure chance when the crater's uneven surface and the position of the rising sun coincided. However, There is another case where such an explanation cannot be applied. In 2013, an event was observed on the night side of the moon where it was impossible for sunlight to reach.
Hola, bienvenido.
José María Madiedo from the University of Huelva managed to capture this event. In his quest to observe a transient lunar phenomenon, he dedicated 6 years to filming the moon's surface using a special telescope. In September 2013, he finally succeeded in capturing a strange phenomenon.
The light may have been almost as bright as the pole star. It would have been visible with the naked eye. So if at that moment someone had been looking at the moon, they could have seen that flare of light.
Watch closely where the arrow is pointing. Let's see it again. It's brightest at the very beginning, and then it quickly fades. The flash of light lasts 8.3 seconds.
This phenomenon is very different from other transient lunar phenomena that have been reported. So when I saw the impact, I knew I had witnessed something extraordinary, a very rare event.
What was the identity of this mysterious light? Madiedo got hold of images taken by an American lunar probe before and after the flash and compared them.
This is an image of the area in which the impact took place on September 11, 2013. After, the probe took this other image of the same area, showing how the material that was ejected from the crater scattered in all directions from the point of impact.
A crater was left behind where the flash of light occurred. A meteoroid had collided with the moon. The crater's diameter was 35 meters. From its size, the scale of the impact was calculated. The meteoroid is estimated to have been 1.4 meters wide and weighed 450 kilograms. It crashed at a speed of 60,000 kilometers per hour, creating an enormous amount of heat. A huge number of meteoroid fragments and sand from the moon melted and scattered all around, emitting an 8-second flash of light. Over the course of 6 years of observations, Madiedo learned that light phenomena caused by meteoroid impacts occurred frequently. This flash lasts just 0.1 seconds. They're mostly invisible to the naked eye, but on average, such flashes of light occur on the moon once every 3 hours. Every time there is a meteoroid impact, a flash of light occurs on the moon. The countless craters on its surface are a testament to the turbulent nature of the universe. The year was 1967. America sent out unmanned lunar probes to survey the surface of the moon, which was still beyond the reach of humans. This is the moon's surface, as captured by the Surveyor spacecraft. Among the over 80,000 images taken, there was one strange image which could not be explained. It showed a light glowing in the dark night sky, somewhere beyond the moon's horizon. The thick layer of light was several kilometers tall. It was an odd light that was neither sunlight that was reflected nor a meteoroid impact. This mysterious light was not a one-off occurrence. Harrison Schmitt was the first scientist to land on the moon. In 1972, he witnessed a remarkable sight from aboard Apollo 17.
We were on the far side of the moon, so we were out of communications with the Earth. We were coming out of darkness. This was a spacecraft sunrise. And the closer you got to sunrise, you would see this very bright spike at the base of each of these. Well, about the time just before the sun broke the horizon, then you could see this faint glow that reached a dome-like maximum along the horizon. Yes, the orangish, more yellow-orange would be a better, probably a better color for that. Be a really bright.
The mysterious light spread out over the border between night and morning. As there is no atmosphere on the moon, however, it could not have been the bright glow of the morning sun.
You could just start to make them out, and they got brighter and brighter as you got near to sunrise. And so we were seeing them for several minutes. I believe transient lunar phenomena exist.
What could this moving light have been? Scientists are now attempting to crack this riddle. Mihai Horani from the University of Colorado Boulder is trying to reconstruct the mysterious light seen by Schmitt. Horani believes that the secret behind the mysterious light lies in what is known as regolith, the fine sand on the moon's surface. Fine sand that stands in for regolith is placed in the laboratory equipment. The air pressure is lowered and the environment darkened to simulate the conditions of the moon at night. When bright light is directed into the chamber, the regolith begins to jump about. Horani thinks that the same phenomenon may be happening, but on a much greater scale on the moon's surface. Here, you can see regolith flying up around the astronaut's feet. With a diameter of around 0.05 millimeters, regolith particles are far finer than sand on Earth, so they fly about at the slightest trigger.
When the astronaut observations is looking at light that is possibly scattered by small particles. And this is actually not something that normal people would not experience almost every day. If you happen to lay in bed at one early morning and the sun is shining and you look back towards where the light is coming from, frequently you see really bright specks of dust. And it's very bright. And it is scattering on possibly scattering on tiny particles that now appear to be very bright.
The sun's light is thought to cause regolith to fly up. As the moon has no atmosphere, along with light, the sun sends down particles with a positive charge. This makes the regolith take on a positive charge. As a result, the regolith particles repel each other, making regolith dance about in space. Bathed in sunlight, the regoliths sparkle. Occurring just on the cusp between night and day, it is a luminous phenomenon unique to the moon.
As long as the sun is shining, it is emitting photoelectrons and generates this electric field. And you could possibly make particles levitate in this electric field, and levitation would mean that the electric field acting on positively charged particle compensates for gravity. So this particle can stay in this region, possibly for long amount, for some time.
22 years after Schmidt's observation, the American lunar probe Clementine also captured the same phenomenon. Again, it occurred just as night was turning into day. If Harani's experiment is right, when morning arrives on the moon's surface, regolith will begin to dance about in a glittering display. Research into TLPs has shed a new and surprising light on the moon. Next, we turn to lunar phenomena that for some reason often occur in the same places. When we delve into the reason for this, an unexpected truth is revealed. Arlen Krotz from Columbia University studies images of the moon taken simultaneously from New York and Chile. He is particularly interested in what causes long-lasting luminescent phenomena. Analyzing past observation records, he has produced some fascinating data. This shows the distribution of where prolonged TLPs have been sighted. The size of the red hemispheres indicates the number of observations. If TLPs were only caused by meteoroid impacts and regolith, the distribution should be even. However, Krotz found that the phenomena occurred more frequently in certain areas.
They behave like a real phenomenon, and they are only associated primarily with certain areas of the moon. What is special about Aristarchus in relation to TLPs? I don't know for sure. We don't know the answer yet.
TLPs have been observed most often in a crater on the northwestern side of the moon called Aristarchus. 122 TLPs have been reported here, which account for almost half of these cases. Why do TLPs occur so often in Aristarchus? In fact, one was observed the night before humankind reached a milestone in space exploration. July 1969 saw the successful launch of Apollo 11. It entered the moon's orbit with the goal of being the first spaceflight to land humans on the moon. But an incident occurred 27 hours before the landing. It started here on Earth. Bochum Observatory is located in northwest Germany. At the time, it had been asked by NASA to track Apollo 11's progress.
It's through here.
During the times when the moon could not be seen from America, this parabolic antenna received signals from Apollo 11. It became the base station that linked the spacecraft to Earth. In case communications were interrupted, an optical telescope was also used to track the spacecraft.
People were not sure to what extent the Apollo missions would turn out well. There was always the possibility of failure. For example, the spaceship crashing into the moon, and so on. This is why there was a need for optical observation as well.
And then, the night before the landing, one of the staff monitoring the spacecraft noticed a strange light in the Aristarchus crater.
A luminescent phenomenon occurring on the moon was observed from the ground. This was then reported by telegraph to NASA.
On hearing this news, NASA's control center immediately communicated with Apollo 11, which was flying near Aristarchus at the time.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. We've got an observation you can make if you have some time up there. There have been some lunar transient events reported in the vicinity of Aristarchus. Over. Roger. Okay, Houston, I'm looking north up toward Aristarchus now. There's an area there that is considerably more illuminated than the surrounding area. As a crater can be seen, and the area around the crater is quite bright. Roger, 11, we copy. Hi, Houston, 11. That area is definitely brighter than anything else that I can see on this.
In the end, the astronauts were unable to film the unexplained light. However, the American lunar probe, Clementine, later succeeded in capturing the mysterious light in Aristarchus. The blue-white light spread out, enveloping the whole crater. It does indeed look like it is glowing. The sight witnessed by the Apollo 11 astronauts out of the window that day is thought to have looked something like this. But what was this light that they saw?
5, 4.
2 years after Apollo 11, NASA launched Apollo 15 and used it to investigate this mysterious light. From the lunar orbit, the spacecraft measured the radiation from the moon's surface. There was very little detected from most parts of the moon, but the numbers shot up above Aristarchus, where the transient lunar phenomenon had been observed. Once the spacecraft had passed Aristarchus, the figures returned to low levels. Analysis showed that what had been detected was a gas produced when uranium decays, called radon-222. The only place it was found in high levels on the moon's surface was around Aristarchus. But why was radon gas found in Aristarchus? The answer to this only became clear over 30 years later, in 2007. The Japanese lunar probe Kaguya examined the distribution of the uranium present on the moon's surface. It found that the distribution of uranium on the moon is highly uneven. This is the far side of the moon. Most of it is covered in blue and purple patches, indicating low levels of uranium. Meanwhile, on the other side, patches of red are dotted about, showing high concentrations of uranium. There is a particularly high concentration of uranium around Aristarchus, and vast volumes of it are expected to be present underground. It is thought that the huge amount of uranium that lies under Aristarchus provides a ready source for the radon gas that is found on the moon's surface. Why then does the presence of radon gas lead to transient lunar phenomena. Here, Mihai Horani tests what happens, using laboratory facilities that replicate the conditions on the Moon's surface. Instead of radon, which can be harmful to humans, the experiment uses argon gas, which has very similar properties. This tank is filled with argon gas. When it is exposed to electrons, which under actual conditions would come from the sun, a blue light is produced. Radon is also said to produce light in this way.
When the hot gas is emerging, all of a sudden it is probably illuminated by the solar radiation, or the gas could be hot enough that it glows on its own with sufficient intensity that you could observe.
There are other regions where uranium is present underground, but it is only in Aristarchus that radon is found. So what is causing the presence of the gas? There is a researcher seeking to solve this mystery through experiments. Peter Schultz is a professor at Brown University. He had the idea that the gas in Aristarchus was caused by a certain event that occurred on the far side of the Moon. He focused his attention on the South Pole Aitken Basin on the far side of the Moon. It is hard to distinguish from the numerous craters, but it is a giant crater with a diameter of 2,500 kilometers. 4.3 billion years ago, a 200-kilometer-wide asteroid is thought to have collided with the Moon, forming this crater. Perhaps this impact had a significant effect on the interior of the Moon. Schultz tested this theory in an experiment using an acrylic sphere as the Moon.
So imagine this is the Moon, this big sphere. We're going to have the impactor, the asteroid that formed the South Pole Aitken Basin, come in from this direction. And then imagine that this is the near side. Here comes the asteroid. And now this enormous shock wave goes through the entire portion of the crust where South Pole Aitken Basin was formed is cracked, destroyed. But over here, we begin to see a crack deep inside of the sphere that is the Moon. And this must have happened. This must have taken over 10 minutes, 15 minutes. All this happened over 15 minutes, over the entire Moon.
A shock wave was produced by a violent impact event. This shock wave traveled all the way to the near side of the Moon. The result of this experiment demonstrates that this shock wave created huge cracks on the near side of the Moon. And these very cracks were discovered in actual observations. In 2011, NASA sent the lunar probes Grail into space. Using geological exploration technology, the probes revealed the presence of huge cracks which start from deep inside the Moon. They found that on the near side of the Moon, the cracks spread out in a circle. The distribution matches the results of Schultz's experiment. And there were cracks around Aristarchus as well. Schultz believes that these cracks allow radon to escape to the surface of the crater from underground.
That fracturing probably extended to great depths. It may be that some of these cracks may have provided pathways to gases coming off magma deep within the interior.
These are the cracks found in Aristarchus. It is thought that under here lie uranium deposits. Uranium decays and releases radon gas. Now and then, this gas bursts out to the surface of the moon. It is then hit by the light from the sun and begins to glow. Furthermore, when the gas shoots out, it is also expected to cause the fine regolith on the moon's surface to fly about. It is thought that at times, the regolith reflects the sunlight and glimmers. The mysterious transient lunar phenomena around Aristarchus were the product of the moon's activities that began in the depths of time.
So is it dead? Well, the moon is still creaking and cracking. There are still faults being formed. And the moon still has these certain areas where gases may be escaping. So maybe the moon is not dead.
The idea that the moon is alive is a shocking revelation. And now, definitive proof of this is being discovered. In 2009, NASA launched the LRO lunar probe. Using a powerful camera boasting a resolution of 50 centimeters per pixel, the probe is capturing detailed images of the moon's surface. These high-resolution images led to groundbreaking results. The LRO images are being used by Mark Robinson in his research. As there are no direct means to calculate how old the surface of a particular area of the moon is, the number of craters is used to determine the age. The craters provide a record of all the meteoroid impact events that have occurred since the surface of a given area was formed. In other words, it can be supposed that the higher the number of craters, the older the surface. Among the images captured by LRO, there were some that showed one area with remarkably few craters. The region has a unique D-shaped topography and is named Ina.
Here's Ina. This is a full resolution in LROC image. And here's a different area in the same image that's further away. It's to the south. And it's exact same resolution. So you can see just by looking at this by eye how many more craters there are on the surface than there are on Ina itself.
Ina was found to have been a landform created by lava resulting from volcanic activity. Furthermore, based on the number of craters, it was calculated that there was volcanic activity as recently as 33 million years ago. This completely went against the conventional theory that volcanic activity on the moon ended 1 billion years ago.
The scientific community had thought that volcanism pretty much shut off on the moon. So now, instead of that date being 1 billion, just give it the benefit of the doubt, now it's maybe 10 million or 50 million years, or maybe even there might be volcanism tomorrow on the moon. But if those things are only 10 million years old, it's very, very probable that in the future there will be volcanism on the moon.
The moon is alive. This revelation that turned long-held views upside down was also supported by research in Japan. Using the Kaguya lunar probe and other sources, the moon's size and shape were measured in detail. Scientists used this data to research how the moon and Earth affect each other. They found that as a result of the Earth's tidal force, the moon's shape changes by a few dozen centimeters as it orbits. This change in shape also has implications on the internal structure. It is now believed that around 1,000 kilometers under the moon's surface, there is a hot, soft, mantle-like layer. As the moon changes shape because of Earth, it generates heat, and so continues to be alive.
We mostly thought the moon was dead, but we can now see that, in fact, it is still active and is being kept alive by Earth. It may even continue to change in the future. The TLPs are a starting point. Indeed, it's quite possible that they will come to be seen as being crucial to understanding the moon and to understanding Earth.
If a volcano erupted on the surface of the moon, what would we see from Earth? Perhaps it would be a sight like this, similar to what Herschel saw all those years ago. Tony Cook has analyzed a vast number of records of these mysterious transient lunar phenomena. Armed with new findings that have emerged one after the other, he is taking a fresh look at TLPs.
There's been many discoveries recently which people thought were a little bit impossible about the moon, and that's why I'm very interested in studying the moon and looking at all these old reports to see if there's any truth in them which might change the way we think about the moon.
Humankind has looked up at the moon from time immemorial. But the moon still hides many secrets from us. When these are revealed, we will surely see our closest celestial companion in a completely new light.